But first to news closer to home that has dominated discussion this week: the vile treatment of Jenny Morrison by the loopy left, and the role played by comic Magda Szubanski. And I'll get to that train wreck A Current Affair interview in just a second. If a fraction of the abuse Jenny Morrison copped this week was targeted at a prominent woman from the left, you can be sure there'd be saturation media coverage, dozens of columns, an examination of the deep-seated hatreds behind the abuse. The sisterhood would rally around Jenny, but of course, conservative women rarely receive that sort of support and protection. That's why it was so refreshing to see James Morrow do a news story on Szubanski's role in the Jenny Morrison pile-on for the Daily Telegraph, which the rest of the media soon followed. Normally, such instances pass without any coverage. Leftist celebrities can say whatever radical, divisive and frankly crazy crap they like without any commentary from the media. But if a celeb dares deviate from leftist groupthink, even with the mildest of comments, there's an avalanche of bad media. What Magda indulged in, and has indulged in for some time, wasn't mild. It was frankly extreme. To suggest that the Prime Minister's wife is not only subservient, but also a white supremacist or making a white supremacist symbol is bonkers territory. So no wonder Channel 9 went swiftly into damage control, given Szubanski is the host of their new show, the relaunched Weakest Link. On Wednesday night, Tracy Grimshaw tried her best to paint Magda as the victim.
Magda, good to talk with you. Firstly, let me ask you, are you okay? Because it's no fun being in a situation like this, a media pile-on. How are you holding up?
Despite Grimshaw's very soft questioning, the interview was a monumental own goal by Channel 9. The pre-recorded interview saw Szubanski make further divisive claims, indulge in a bizarre conspiracy theory, and fail to adequately answer even the softball questions lobbed up by the host. What made it to air was a hot mess, but the full interview is said to be even more damaging, with some of Szubanski's absurd responses wisely cut. Let's have a look at Szubanski's most coherent answer on the saga.
So do I think that a pile-on of Jenny Morrison about her appearance is appropriate? Absolutely not. But do I think it is legitimate to criticise her or have a critique of her? Yes, I do, because she is the Prime Minister's wife. She's not the First Lady. We don't use that term here. She's the Prime Minister's wife. That is, you can opt in or out of public life. And Scott Morrison frequently uses her almost as a policy advisor. As he says, I spoke to Jenny about this, I spoke to her about that. So really, if she's going to have some sort of influence in public life, I want to know what are her values. What kind of a woman is she?
So which is it, Magda? Is Jenny a subservient housewife from The Handmaid's Tale? Or is she a powerful policy advisor determining the direction of our country? Pick a lane, love. The interview only got worse from there, with Grimshaw's lacklustre questioning a standout. Tracy is a skilled interviewer, but somehow she failed to question Szubanski's bizarre claim that she didn't even recognise Jenny Morrison in the picture she was trolling because the First Lady didn't have her hair and makeup done. Grimshaw also failed to pin down an answer about Szubanski's most extreme tweet about Jenny, the suggestion she is a white supremacist or making a white supremacist symbol. Szubanski knew precisely what she was doing when she tweeted a picture zoomed in on Jenny Morrison's hand with the forefinger and the thumb touching. Sane people call that the OK sign, but among the hard left who fell for a 4chan hoax, it's considered a symbol of far-right white supremacy. Can you imagine what would happen if a mainstream celebrity suggested Kevin Rudd's wife was a white supremacist? You think the media would allow them to play the victim because there was some blowback? Now, Current Affair were careful to show only edited versions of the tweets. The graphics deliberately cut out the words Szubanski quote-tweeted about the Morrisons from far-left trolls, including one referring to their photo as, and I quote, creepy, chilling and enraging. If that is your reaction to that benign photo, then I suggest you seek professional help, and quickly. It's apparent that in Szubanski's narrow circle, hysterical reactions to that photo were the norm.
Which I genuinely thought was a meme, so I was a bit staggered that I got drawn into this over such a nothing observation that thousands of people had already made on Twitter, made that comment. So, and all I'm suggesting is, with that comment, is why would you put something that looks like The Handmaid's Tale out as a photo op? I mean, Scott Morrison is the master of spin. So many people had that reaction. If I was the only one that had that reaction, you'd think, oh, Magda's got an angle. But heaps of people did. I was actually coming off the back of other people commenting, and
But for most people not pandering to the lunatic left of the Twitterverse, the photos were unremarkable and worthy of neither mockery nor rage. What was wacko wasn't the picture, but the demented reaction to it from the loud left. And isn't it strange that Nine didn't show or ask Magda about the image of the PM watching on as Jenny signed the condolence book for Prince Philip? Maybe they had an angle. Now, most reasonable people, whatever their political persuasion, don't believe politicians' spouses should be under intense scrutiny. But Szubanski rejects that view and blamed the PM for Jenny Morrison's plight.
They're off limits, the wives of Prime Ministers. They are, if they opt to stay out of public life. But Scott Morrison is the one who has brought her into public life. And as we know, once you're in public life, and we all cop it, that's what happens.
Magda also repeatedly claimed that the media representation of her comments were unfair.
Number of pylons that I get, I'm extremely restrained about what I say on Twitter, but there are some opinions that I will voice, and in terms of the increasing presence of the religious right in politics in this country, then I will say something, Tracy, because there comes a point at which mere politeness, and the idea that mine was a tirade or that I savaged her, seriously, go and look at what I said. I absolutely didn't.
Well, she invited us to go and have a look at her Twitter page and see what she did actually say, and we did just that. This is from Wednesday, the same day the ACA interview aired. Magda wrote, "The PM has weaponised Jenny. He has confirmed she's basically a quasi-policymaker. I spoke to Jenny about this, I spoke to Jenny about that. She doesn't deny this or ask it to stop. First ladies have the right to opt in or out." So, what? Jenny has to publicly ask her husband not to talk to her, otherwise she's opting into policy making? Then there's this tweet from the same day. "The infiltration of the religious far right into Australian politics is disturbing. Read Jenny. Scott Morrison, the most powerful man in the country, wheeled her into the political arena. She is his conscience." But back to that car crash interview where Szubanski did admit that there was an ideological motivation behind her tweets.
That was a mild way of drawing attention to the fact that I do have concerns about, and trust me, this is not about the majority of Christians, but the element of the far right, and they're really going to come for me now, I think that's a concern. And I think that's a quite legitimate thing to say in this country.
Magda loves railing against the so-called Christian far right. She had a go at Senator Amanda Stoker and her Christian beliefs earlier this month. Yes, we all know that Scott and Jenny Morrison are devout Christians. But isn't it curious that Szubanski, who campaigned for same-sex marriage, has had nothing to say about the demographics of electorates that voted no at the 2017 plebiscite? It wasn't the Conservative coalition Heartland that voted no, but safe Labor seats with the highest concentration of Muslim voters. 12 of the 17 electorates that voted no to same-sex marriage were in Western Sydney. And finally, Szubanski even indulged in a little conspiracy theory during her interview. Apparently it was all a sophisticated diversionary tactic.
Look, that was probably a silly tweet to put out, but The fact that it turned into this big issue is no doubt, in my mind, partly to distract from the fact that Christine Holgate was making her testimony. So it was a little bit of, oh, don't look at this because there's something going on here.
Little problem with that paranoid fantasy. The Szubanski story blew up early Monday afternoon. Christine Holgate's testimony didn't happen until the following day. And let's not forget, many of the people appalled by Jenny Morrison's treatment also stand with Holgate and believe she was unfairly treated. Indeed, it's been conservative women from Janet Albrightson to Pauline Hanson who have for months championed Christine Holgate's cause. The fact that readers and viewers are interested in the story of a famous comic and actor trolling the First Lady is not some nefarious plot. The very same audience that Nine wants watching The Weakest Link care about this story and the hypocrisy of the far left. You can be an activist poking fun at Christians, conservatives and mainstream Australians as much as you like. You can even falsely malign them as far right. But don't be surprised if the people you defame don't want to watch your programs.